Trek Profiles Podcast, Episode 13, recorded October 20th, 2018. This is the Trek Profiles Podcast, and we are changing things up a little bit right here on episode 13. I was invited by Mark Schwartz, the owner of A&M Collectibles right here in Las Vegas, to attend a Sci-Fi meetup at his shop and do some podcast recording. They set me up in this spare room, which doubles as a bridge set for the fan film that they're making, and I parked in there the entire day, and I interviewed a whole bunch of Star Trek fans back to back. So now I have a full spread of Trek Profiles flavored Photon Torpedo episodes ready to launch in Dispersal Pattern Sierra right at your podcast player. I did so many interviews that I'm going to have to break them into 2 episodes, so this will be part 1. Now, I do have to let you know that since I was on the road, I wasn't in the best environment for podcasting. We will have police sirens, we will have dogs barking, we will have people walking around, kids playing outside, a giant air conditioner that sounded like a dysfunctional warp core going off every 10 minutes, and a wobbly plastic desk we were using to record on. So the sound quality will be a bit different from what we normally have here, and I also chose to go with only the lightest bit of editing. So you're going to hear pretty much exactly what I recorded with people, with just a little bit of sound correction, trimming, and leveling. A fair number of folks from the local USS Las Vegas fan club were in attendance, plus lots of other people too. My rule was that I recorded anyone who was willing to talk to me, and we stuck to only the loosest of outlines. So if you have any feedback on these runabout-sized Trek Profiles interviews, I'd love to hear from you. Trek Profiles on Twitter and of course on Facebook, and if you want email, it's feedback@trekprofiles.com. So without further ado, let's jump right into these interviews. I'm going to run them back to back for you. First, we'll have Taylor, and then Tanekh, who wanted to go by his Klingon name, and then we'll hear from Catherine, and then Roger. After that will be Chris, and then a second Taylor, who is actually the first Taylor's daughter. So I thought that would be a nice bookend for this episode. And then I'll be back at the end with just a very few words. M5, roll it. First of all, just tell me who you are.
My name's Taylor Hummon.
And do you live here in Las Vegas?
I do. I've lived here for about 20 plus years.
And are you a Star Trek fan?
That's a loaded question. Yes, I have to. I guess I'd have to say I'm a Star Trek fan. But Star Trek makes me mental, so.
Well, you have to tell me what that means.
No, I have no problem telling you what that means when we get there. Anyway, what was your next question?
Oh, I want to know what that means when you say it makes you mental. Do you enjoy it, or do you dislike it, or what? I don't.
It's complicated. This is the one. It's not. Normally, I swear to you, I'm a sorted out person. You know. Yeah. And but Star Trek, my opinion, relationship, fandom of Star Trek is a complicated. It's a complicated issue. Star Trek makes me mental. Yeah, it absolutely makes me mental. I can honestly. I could say that, not like mental health, well, almost to the point where you'd almost want to go to a therapist. Almost.
So do you call yourself a fan or no?
No, right? Because every time you ask me if I'm a fan, I'm like balking or hesitating. And again, I'm just like, I remember the first time that I absolutely fundamentally broke up with Star Trek, like, screw this, I'm out. And that was obviously the 2009 J.J. Abrams stuff.
I don't know why that's obvious. It's obvious to you. Yeah. Lots of people like those movies.
Well, it's a free country. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Diversity is the spice of life. But yeah, I would. I remember I used to be mad at Leonard Nimoy about it, and so
careful hitting on the table there. Sorry. It's going to make sounds that get in the mic. The mic's going to pick up everything, so just be careful about that.
Because of the 2009 Star Trek, like, I was literally mad at Leonard Nimoy, and I would tell people I wanted to fight him. Like, I was like, I don't care if he's an old man, I'll fight him, and somebody needs to call him out. But then, like, I can tell you what got me over that was his son Adam Nimoy's documentary. I mean, like, when you see that documentary, it's like, okay,
for the Love of Spock.
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, that is exactly, up until I saw that documentary, I was absolutely 100% committed to arguing, fighting, being mad at, yelling at, whatever. Didn't care if I had an unpopular opinion. Didn't care if I was out there all by myself. I was super mad at Leonard Nimoy.
For being in the 2009 movie?
Oh, yeah. Look, here, it's super simple. I get it. He's a man. He's an actor. He's struggling, trying to find his place as a man, actor, father, cultural icon. I get it, and everything I'm saying now is hindsight. But at the time, I was super mad, right? Because I'm like, my punchline is this. You can save 2 whales, but you can't save your mom. Get out of here. You know what I mean? You can write a book called I Am Not Spock, and then you write a book I Am Spock. So which is it? Pick. You know what I mean? You're going to go save 2 whales, but you're not going to save your mom. Which is, to me, just bad writing, right? And no disrespect to anybody other than, that's bad writing in the script, right? At the end of the movie, I'm just going to hang out with the remaining Vulcans. Really? Because I'm pretty sure you've time traveled. Well, how? And to save the whales, I mean, he directed that one, right? So Leonard Nimoy knows how scripts work. And you've heard him talk about his highs and lows as an actor with scripts, with direct. I mean, it's all out there. So, I got over the whole Leonard Nimoy bit literally because of his son. He's like, please give my dad a break. You see For the Love of Spock, you're like, okay, I get it. Okay, it's like, if you're struggling to have a personal relationship with your own father, I'm just some dumb fan. Who cares?
So then let's talk about before 2009, right? So
Star Trek was awesome.
Okay, and what was your favorite part of Star Trek?
All of it, all of the above, infinite diversity and infinite combination.
Did you have a particular show that you enjoyed more than the others, or a particular captain, or a particular kind of story?
No. You know why? Because I'm not kidding when I say this. Star Trek was literally the nexus of intersecting realities. I mean, with Star Trek, anything was possible. So that cheesy line about infinite diversity and infinite combination is not a cheesy line. We have time travel. We have mirror universes. People are switching bodies, whatever. Anything was possible with Star Trek, and was trying to illustrate, demonstrate, teach you a lesson, or show the pros and cons or shades of gray. Anything was possible. And that gave people imagination. It gave them hope. It gave them empathy. It wanted to make people be better. I got Dr. Mae Jameson, she's watching a horror. She's working for NASA. You pick how many people were influenced by Star Trek. Like countless real world people, countless scientists, anything was possible when it was Star Trek. Star Trek wasn't science fiction. It was future history. You hear any doubt or hesitation in my voice?
No, you sound very. It sounds like a story I hear a lot when I do this kind of show. So tell me then, do you have any particular episodes that are meaningful to you? And I'm not asking you for you have the best episodes.
Oh no. Well, so when I was a kid, so I'm watching Star Trek and I'm watching the animated series. I'm a kid. I'm born in '68. I just see Star Trek in syndication. I'm watching little Saturday morning cartoons. I'm 5-6 years old, right? Weirdly enough, the first one that struck me was the Balance of Terror with Mark Leonard, saying to Captain Kirk, because he's defeated, his ship is smashed, right? Right. But he says, I feel like in some other kind of life we could have been friends. Like, that was so weird hearing that when you're a little kid, right? Because, he's a good actor, it's a good line, it was well
Mark
delivered.
Leonard was amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it was well delivered, and I feel like in some other life we could have been friends. So that was one of the first little things that stuck with me.
Yeah, that's for sure. And he had this gravitas, and this dignity about him. And I think it was him, it was Mark, and he brought it into every role that he did, when he was doing Sarek and everything else, that he just had this tremendous presence, that just really informed a lot of the character. So it's a beautiful moment. Yeah, so Balance of Terror stuck with you. Any others?
The last line that I remember sticking with me, the last line was from, it's fan film, but it has Gary Graham as Ambassador Sovol, the whole controversial prelude to Axanar, and he says, the Andorians have a saying, don't push the pink skins out on the thin ice, right? And I'm like, a Vulcan quoting an Andorian about humans, about not pushing them out on thin ice, right? And I'm just like, again, which is the whole, because there was that tension with the Vulcans and the Andorians in the Enterprise, right? And so even though this is a fan film, and even though this fan film got canned, here was this super powerful line coming from this great actor, First time I noticed Gary Graham in a movie was Robot Jox, and then of course he did the TV series for Alienation, right? But he was great as Ambassador Soval because he really walked a fine line, and so he's walking a fine line doing this fan film called Prelude to an X-Ray. And it's like, that line about don't push the pink skins out on the thin ice. That was a great line, and that's what Star Trek has. They have these great characters in these difficult moments. And they're acting, they're emoting, whatever. They're delivering the line, but you're with them on that journey where you can see them struggling to say something meaningful, both as a character and as an actor, which actually in some way helps you navigate the real world in some way. In some way you're just at work or driving or whatever. In your real life you think, oh yeah, that character, that actor, they got through it. I can get through it. So that kind of vicarious exchange between the fans and the actors and the writers and the actors, and creates this kind of perfect trifecta where it's a little bit easier to get through your day because J.G. Hertzler, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. The guy that plays Martok. I would absolutely follow him into battle. I know he's an actor. I know Martok's not real. I know Klingons aren't real, right? I know the Dominion War was a great storyline, but I would absolutely, if Martok says, let's go, we're going.
If you want, you got to either pull in closer.
Sorry,
you can lean in or you can pull the chair in closer. Yeah, okay. Either one will work. But don't lean all the way back because then your sound level changes a lot.
Yeah, so you have these great scripts, these great actors delivering these great lines. Casey Biggs as Damar, probably the most pivotal scene would have been when he, again, it's just one of those weird, random things. Sisko is Benny Russell. He's in the asylum, right? He's writing a story on the wall. And I swear to God, the way that, and I've mentioned that, I met the actor at the convention, I said something, it's like the way he just delivered that line, right? It was so reasonable, it was so plausible. Just paint the wall, let it go, right? Because as a reasonable person, if you're not looking at Damar, you're looking at a psychiatric doctor who's trying to help his patient who's delusional, but as we, the fans, know, we're watching a TV show, it's a false vision from the paw race, right? But he's like, paint the wall. Help me help you, paint the wall, And you're just like, and of course, Sisko doesn't paint the wall, punches him, And then he writes a story and boom, everything's right back in the universe. But when you can take, again, great writing, great dialogue, great ideas, great actors, put them in these ridiculously over-the-top, pivotal moments like Alice in Wonderland, how far does this rabbit hole go? And then you deliver this great scene, it sticks with people for literally a lifetime.
Oh, sure. That's the great thing about Star Trek, right? Is that, the fans, they don't just look at it as an entertainment, right? We look at it as
a way of life.
It's really a way that you want to be, right? It's holding up a mirror to you and saying, are you being the person that you want to be, right? Because here's a yardstick to measure yourself by.
Absolutely.
And you see the good and the bad and everything in between in a lot of those episodes.
I put a lot of thought into what I call the original 5 series and the original 5 captains, right? All 5 captains are amazing actors. All 5 captains had amazing shows. They struggled. In real life, they struggled with the show, right? But when you think about it, it's like, oh, I'm on the frontier. Who do I want? Let's go get a cowboy. Let's go get Kirk, right? Oh, we are in the middle of a diplomatic nightmare. Who do we go get? Let's go get Picard, right? It's like, oh, somebody's got to do something they don't want to do. Let's go get Sisko. We're lost. Let's go get Janeway. Who's first up to bat? By default, Archer, even though it's all retro, temporal Cold War stuff, right? He's like, my ship only goes warp 5.
Well, whenever there's some kind of anything, that's when you want Janeway, because as I've learned in my Voyager rewatch, which I'm doing, they throw that line in like in every episode. It must be some kind of something, right? It appears everywhere. It must be some kind of anomaly, right?
The other thing about Star Trek, you're talking about measuring stick. So I'm born in 68. I'm 5 watching the syndication animated, right? I'm 8 when Star Wars comes out. So 79, we get the motion picture. Wrath of Khan's 82, right? Best movie ever, bar none. Yeah, I'll fight over that one too. Wrath of Khan, best movie, right? And on, right? So you get this massive body of work,
700 and something hours of Star Trek as we sit here.
Yeah, that's what they say. And, I have been and always shall be your friend. Like, who doesn't want to hear that? Who doesn't want to say that?
Right.
That kind of thing. But talk about measuring stick, right? I'm physically the same age as Jerry Ryan, and Harry Kim. But Tom Paris is the archetype or character that obviously was the first time like, oh my God, you know, I'm old enough to be in Starfleet now, you know. And I am kind of a punk kid that's made bad decisions and rebelled against his father, right? Tom Paris was the first time that I'm like, he's born in 64, I'm born in 68, and Ryan and Wang are born in, or Wang, I don't know if I
Garrett Wang.
Wang, okay. I met him a couple times, but it's not clear on his name. They're born in 68, right? So Voyager's the first time you're physically old enough to actually be in Starfleet, be on these crazy, and Voyager was a crazy ride. That was a crazy ride. You know, Aaron Eisenberg, I think he's born in like 68 too. The guy who played Nog.
Yep.
You know, that kind of thing. And, you know, Wesley he was younger, but he was just a kid, right? So Voyager's the first time that I would say Gen X is now in Star Trek, you know.
Right.
And then when you see Enterprise, a lot of people don't realize, you know, Connor Trinneer was born in 69, like March. So now you're old enough to be a chief engineer. You're like, oh, well, I'm not a chief engineer in real life. Maybe I should have applied myself. And then now all of a sudden they're coming out with season 2 of Discovery. Anson Mount, I think, is born in like 73. So now I'm physically older than Pike, right? And I'm thinking Jeffrey Hunter Pike, you know, the Cage, the Menagerie, the original. I'm like, when did I become older than Pike, you know? And so it's a journey. It's a lifetime journey. So when I say Star Trek makes me mental, I'm absolutely not kidding. And when you talked about a yardstick, I'm not kidding, right? Yeah, I can do this all day long at will.
So let me ask you, you'd mentioned that you've been to the convention. You're talking about STLE. Do you go every year? Do you just go once in a while?
I go when I can afford it. I go when I have a way in, you know. I get something different out of the convention, but yeah, I've been to the convention.
What do you like about it?
What do I like about the convention? You know, overall, see, again, Star Trek makes me mental. So I'm going to say as a caveat, the first thing, creations makes me mental. Right? Now, if you take that whole creations process and how they run their convention, you just put that off to the side, right? Put that off the side. Obviously, you get a chance to talk to actors. You know, you want their autograph, you want their picture, there it is. You want to hear their stories, there it is. Mm-hmm. You got a great dealer's room. You got costume parties, you know, for like a week. You know, you're not alone. For a week, it's just like, oh, other people love Star Trek as much as me. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
Good. Are you a collector at all?
Yeah, that would be an understatement. Yes.
What do you collect?
Well, this shop, right, that we're here, that Mark has,
mm-hmm.
We're in the Star Trek Club because I said, you sell Star Trek. And Dale, who's husband of the owner-operator, he's one of, you know, he loves Star Trek, he collects. And I said, let's go join the Star Trek Club. But I've had Star Trek since I was 5, right?
So what do you like to collect? I mean, everything from action, just anything, everything.
I suppose it depends.
Figures,
I think the
ships.
Probably the thing that I'm best at would be the ships.
Okay.
Right. I can't afford the Eagle Moss ships. Again, no disrespect. Those are great ships.
No, they are. I bought one. I have one. I have a little Enterprise at my work that I keep in my little work area.
They do a great job. But I had Micro Machines. What a lot of people don't know about is kind of what I call the gaming aspect of Star Trek. So I'm not just a role player, card gamer, war gamer, right? But, you know, I did that for Star Trek, which means I have some of the trading card games, I have some of the board games, I have some of the war games, I have some of the role-playing games. So
I used to play, back in the day, the FASA role-playing game back in the 80s.
I have that right now. If you go look in my case, right? It's those cases out there in the hallway, those are my cases. Those aren't mine.
Okay.
Those cases are all me displaying Star Trek, whether it was the computer games or the board games or the books. Yeah, all those cases.
I love that FASA role-playing game, and I used to play the FASA Starship Combat game with the little miniatures, you know, when we could afford them. We used to
I used the Micro Machines.
Nice.
I got about 100 of them.
Well, you had to put them on that little hex pattern, right, to make them go. But I really enjoyed that.
What was your favorite ship to fly?
Well, let me see. I would probably have to say for the game, I want to say it was the D10.
Oh, okay.
The D10 was really nice. I really enjoyed that one. It was really a match for the Constitution class in the game. Sure. It was really good. But I'll tell you about a game that I saw that I did not participate in. Boy, this is bringing up some Trek memories right here. Was 2 friends of mine that I'm still friends with. Hi, Alex and Mike, if you're out there. And just for laughs, they put I forget what class ship it is, but it was the USS Grissom in Star Trek 3.
Okay.
Which just has a single 360-degree phaser arc. That's it. It's one weapon was a 360-degree phaser versus some Klingon bird of prey. And it was just, of course, it was just for laughs because, there's no way that the Grissom was going to win. Mm-hmm. And just as the game started, I can't remember who was playing what, but he took a roll and did like a super long-distance phaser blast. Mm-hmm. And he happened to destroy the weapons array on the Klingon bird of prey and actually won the game. And he was totally overmatched, 20-1.
That's funny.
And it was just a random roll that he got. I forget what the dice rolls were on the game, but I mean, he just rolled exactly the right thing at exactly the right power before the other ship could even engage, and won the whole thing before it even began. And it was like the most epic thing. It was just great. It was just one of those moments you had to be there. But
that that's the thing about so what you have is you have the Star Trek TV show, you have some of the movies, right, and you get this real sense of starship combat, which it wasn't just fast at the time. There was also another one by Amarillo Design Bureau, Starfleet Battles, and Starfleet Battles is a little bit more complicated, and it was pretty brutal game. I mean, I could just show you the charts and graphs. You need a degree in math to play it, but when you are playing Star Trek, any of the games, and you're watching the show, they do seem to coincidentally or serendipitously have that, what I call that long shot Hail Mary prayer, that just because as a wargamer in Star Trek, I think my favorite one was I took 4 stripped down Galaxy class ships, so fresh out of the shipyard, right? No crews, no captains, no equipment, just 4 straight Galaxy class. We were playing the recent attack wing, and I'm playing against my friend. He's in the club too, and he's got 2 tricked out birds of prey, Cavort class. Just tricked out, great commanders, officers, specialty
which
equipment.
Game is this?
Star Trek Attack Wing by WizKids.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he's got 2 tricked out birds of prey, and I've got 4 bare bones Galaxy classes, right? But sheer numbers, right? I just fly out there, turn 1, we're halfway across the board, turn 2, we're at point blank range. It's an exchange of fire, my 4 guns to his 2 guns, and then and I told him this before, which one's going reverse, right? Because classic undiscovered country, back off, when Kirk's backing off from the cloaked bird of prey. And it's called, in Starfleet Battles, it's called a rolling retrograde. So you throw your ship in reverse, right? So you can keep them in your forward firing arc.
Right.
So all 4 of my ships roll back too, He walks right into that again. So again, it's 4 guns to 2 guns, And then we had to literally, because that was a complex maneuver, we had to do an easy maneuver. So we just roll forward 1, and he literally undershoots it, right? So he thinks he's going to fly over the top of us and then spin around and be behind us. But he didn't. He flew and spun around, and again, now we're just shooting into his backside. And that was it, you know what I mean? By then, that was just pure luck of I've watched Star Trek, I've played the other games, that kind of thing. So it was fun.
Let's return to the show for a minute.
Sure.
So you watched 2009. You had a bad reaction to it.
Super bad.
Yeah.
Like every curse word you can imagine, every extreme thought you can imagine.
I got you. I want to move past that.
So.
But then
go ahead.
Then they came out with the other 2 movies.
Yep.
Right. And
still not happy.
So you had the same reaction.
Absolutely.
And the Discovery came out. Have you seen Discovery?
Oh yeah. I've seen Discovery.
And what's your reaction to Discovery?
You know what? I'm so glad you asked, because I did not have this figured out until about last week.
Okay.
CBS clearly knows what they're doing, and Paramount clearly doesn't. Period. The end. That it's just that easy. So Paramount you're bad at their job. CBS apparently not too bad at their job. CBS, despite everything, is trying to give the fans what they want on some level. You know what I mean? And when you watch Discovery, it's I remember when everybody was up in arms about Next Generation, right?
Sure.
Everybody's like, oh, this isn't Trek, right? And then everybody was up in arms with Cisco, right? And then everybody was up in arms with Janeway, and then everybody was up in arms with Archer, right? I'm not signing off on Discovery 100%, but you can't tell me they're not trying. They're trying. CBS is trying. The writers are trying. The actors are trying. Discovery, I'm give it a chance. Don't. If you boycott it, fine. You don't boycott it, great. You enjoy it, great. You don't enjoy it. But you can't tell me Discovery's not trying. They're absolutely trying. So, even if they're born out of that horrible Axanar fan film, because they are.
What, Discovery is?
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's a lot of people who would disagree with you on that.
Yeah, well, they'd be wrong.
Okay.
They would be fundamentally wrong because there's no conception of discovery. Here's Axanar, boom, and everybody's like, wow, and then CBS like, oh my God, we better get off our butts and do something. Okay. And they did.
All right, fair
and
enough.
They did. Okay. And they did. So here we are.
Listeners, you can direct your emails and tweets to the guest, not to me.
They can bring it.
So
they can bring it.
Fantastic. So then what is Star Trek in your opinion? How do you define it?
I think the first word you got to go is hope. Hope for a better day, hope for a better future, hope for a better outcome. Hope that it's not going to be too bad. Hope that you can find a way to fit in. You can find a way to fit as a fan, find a way to fit in as an actor, find a way to fit in as a scriptwriter, find a community that you connect with, you gel with. Star Trek is hope. Everything else, generally dystopic science fiction. Star Trek is the embodiment of hope.
That's beautiful, man. Is there a Twitter account? Are you on Twitter or Facebook or anything?
No,
if people want to contact with you?
I'm super low profile.
All right, fantastic. Well, sometimes I always ask because sometimes people sometimes.
Am I allowed to pick on the Abrams verse or not?
You, it's all about you, man. If you want to say something, you can say something. It's my show is about the guests, not about me.
Again, no disrespect to the actors. They did an amazing job. Carl Urban, Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto. Those kids, I say kids because I'm like 10 years older and who cares, right? But those kids did a great job of acting. I watched that stuff and I'm like, yep, that's Uhura, that's Spock, that's Kirk. I mean, they did a great job acting, right? I pick on the Abrams verse because, I'm like, I get that you're trying to make a movie. I get you're trying to go for this blockbuster sci-fi thing like Transformers and Star Wars, right? I get that it's not your father's Trek. They were very clear on that point in their marketing campaign. This is not your father's Trek, right? I think just how it's executed, how they came out with what they came out with, I'm just like... if people really want to debate over a movie, people debate over sports, people debate over cars, people debate minutia to the nth degree, right? So, the Abrams verse is so... What's the word I'm looking for? Radically not Star Trek, yet looks like Star Trek. That kind of thing. That's why I can say I have such a strong reaction. It's like... I'm not trying to tell people how to make a Hollywood movie, right? I'm just saying, if you're going to call something Star Trek, then it's Star Trek. And without getting into the particulars, right, the only person I would really argue with at point blank range would be J.J. Abrams. Everybody else, whatever, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I would argue with him. I would fight with him. If the fans like it, great.
Well, I would say that I would suspect that it wouldn't be interested because, after all, he's not a Star Trek fan. He
really? Yeah. I think there was a very specific interview where it was the Today Show with the original host. I'm spacing out his name.
Lauer?
No. On Comedy Central. He used to be on MTV. He hangs out with Stephen Colbert.
The Today Show?
No, whatever. Comedy Central.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you
Anyway. Yeah. John something. Total brain synapses.
Doesn't
whatever.
Matter.
Anyway, and he's like, the interviewer is literally saying, "Oh, I don't really know much or like. I'm more of a Star Wars guy." And the interview, they're going back and forth, and I'm just like, my hands up in the air. And it's like, this is my point, And I know, and this is where I come back to Leonard Nimoy. I'm like, why, that kind of thing. So. If they figure out a Star Trek 4, great. Because after all, it's just a movie. If they come up with a Quentin Tarantino R-rated, gunfight Star Trek of revenge, that's great too. Because technically, you could never have enough Star Trek, right?
It's a big universe.
That's the thing about Star Trek. You have a galaxy to work with. About 100,000 light years across. It takes them about 100 years to get across it. So they haven't busted transwarp yet. You've got time travel constantly. You're going up a timeline from, oh goodness gracious, where they're down in 1930s with Edith Keeler, all the way up to the 31st century with Crewman Daniels, right? So you got about 1,000 years of history, and then you've got dimensional. You've got the mirror universe, and then you've got all those subdomains, with all the weird alien, lack of better describe, all the weird alien space ghosts possessing people. That's 4 huge space, time, dimension, and then all the little pocket universes. So yeah, anything's possible. Like Kelvin timeline, have it. I mean, right, that's the you can have it. Just, do a better job, I guess. I don't know.
It's all right, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
Absolutely.
Incoming transmission.
All right, and I'm here with Tanek. Did I say that right?
Yes, Tanek walks.
All right, and that's your Klingon name?
Correct.
Are you a Star Trek fan?
Yes.
How long have you been a Star Trek fan?
Oh, let's see. I started watching it back in '67 when it first was coming out, and been watching it through the years.
So are you a completist? Have you seen all 700 and something hours of Star Trek?
At least twice.
That in animated series?
Yes.
Yeah, and all the different iterations, Discovery, everything.
I haven't seen all of the Discovery yet, only because I'm not wanting to pay for having to watch it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
When it should be something that's for general public, all public, should be out there for everybody.
Okay. Why are you a Star Trek fan?
I enjoy the philosophy of it.
And what's the philosophy of it?
Philosophy that I believe is it's Gene Roddenberry's prospect and thought was to futurize what has happened on Earth. And that prospect he's put to where everybody works together. There is no religion time. There is no race abnormalities. If you have medical problems, they get repaired and or fixed, or people work with you with them. There is no dissymmetry in that pure prospect.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So are you a collector at all?
Yes, I do collect.
And
for my own personal. Any parts of Star Trek.
I mean, some people like the ship, some people like costumes, some people like the action figures.
Well, I wear uniforms, so I don't wear costumes.
Okay.
But I collect any of it. I'm now more into Klingon because I'm the captain of the Klingon ship here in Las Vegas, which is the IKV Kalis Row. If you want to find us, we're on Klingons of Las Vegas on Facebook.
Wonderful. So tell me, why is it that you choose to put on a Klingon uniform? Why is that important to you?
It more fits my persona. And I can be aggressive when I need to be aggressive, passionate when I need to be passionate. And if somebody tests my skills, then I can reiterate back instead of having to go, oh, well, I got to go get a couple more people to help me out.
So did you make your own uniform?
Yes.
And how did you do that? Because I'm not crafty at all, so I'm always a little bit in awe of how people do that.
At the time, we had a seamstress in our club, and we come up with different variations. And right now I have just a main cloak with my headgear, with my prosthesis.
And do you put all that on yourself when you do the prosthetics?
Oh, yes.
Good for you, man. I don't have the skill, so I admire that. So that's fantastic.
It's not that hard. It's just like women putting on makeup. Mm-hmm. Once you've done it a couple of times, it makes it easier.
Oh, I gotcha.
Repetition works best.
Do you go to the convention?
Always.
And I think you guys had a table. Did you not?
Not this year. We've had a table for the last 4 years. We partnered with the Federation of Beer.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I think I recall this now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think you were sort of in the back, like more towards the corner, I think the last time I saw you guys.
On the 50th anniversary, we were back in the corner, yes.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Yep.
And what were you trying to do at your table? Just talk to people about your club, or?
Well, we were talking to people about our club here in Las Vegas, and since we partnered with Federation of Beer, he was promoting his craft beers at the time. He's launched probably about 8 or 9 different craft beers. And, a craft beer, once it's made, once the barrel's empty, then there is no more of that craft beer. Unless they remake it, and he was making specialties. Mm-hmm. So we're still working with him. This last year, some financials didn't work out right, so he's trying to figure it out for going in for 2019.
Fantastic. So, what episodes of Star Trek are the most meaningful for you? Notice that doesn't mean best. It means, but to you personally, which ones really stand out to you? And you can throw the movies in the mix if you want.
I have no really favorites. A lot of them that are very supportive, understanding between all different races.
Okay.
All different exceptions for all different races and all creeds.
Could you give me an example?
In the original series, one of them that really stands out is where the characters were painted, split in half, painted black on one side,
Would
white
that be
on
your
the
last
other.
Battlefield? That's the name of the episode. Yeah.
And the other characters that they were chasing were white on one side, black on the other. So, what that is that's, as James D. Kirk. Yes.
That's me.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw me at STLV.
No, I probably did once. Yes.
In that costume there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's an episode that is near and dear to my heart as well.
Yes.
So
because one of the phrases that Jim Kirk says is, "Well, we didn't see a difference in you." And then all of a sudden the person says, "Well, I'm white on one side and black on the other," and he is white on one side and black on the other. We don't see a difference. We see you as human and two separate people, only that.
Right. Right. Good. Any other episodes come to mind?
Day of Honor in the Next Generation, where Worf was having a problem because he was getting very gruff, mean at people, not realizing that he needed to go through the ritual. And who was it? I'm trying to remember who it was that initiated it. Data was trying to find some information out, and I think it was Wesley is who found out.
Oh, so at the end where they had all the Klingons lined up and they had to hit him with some pain sticks to make him feel better about himself?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. I remember that one.
Yep. The Rite of Ascension.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yep.
What is Star Trek to you?
Like I said, it's a philosophy of understanding life.
All right. Well, Tanek, thank you very much, and kapla.
Kapla. Enjoy.
Incoming transmission.
And we're live, and I'm here with Catherine. Catherine, thank you for being on. Are you a Star Trek fan?
I am very much so, and thank you for inviting me.
Sure. How long have you been a Star Trek fan?
Ever since I started watching the original series with my father when I was a kid, so I'm working on 30 plus years.
Nice. What's your first Star Trek memory then?
I remember being a little girl when my father was watching Star Trek when it was in reruns in the 80s. I remember asking Dad, why does that man have pointy ears? And then why does that planet look red?
Do you remember what episode it was?
I don't. I have a vague memory of watching Trouble with Tribbles with him later on, but the very first introduction of Star Trek I can't remember.
Have you seen all the episodes as we sit here?
No. I have watched TOS repeatedly because of my father, and then he somewhat liked Next Gen, a little bit more in TOS, but then that was my first memory. So TOS is my favorite. My mother liked Deep Space Nine, but her favorite's Voyager, but we have not finished all of Enterprise, and we have not seen Discovery.
Okay. And do you plan to be a completist at some point and watch it all, or are you working your way through it, or are you going to give some episodes a pass, or what are you thinking?
Oh no, I'm going to go straight through it because I like all the incarnations of Star Trek. Okay. I can rank them, but I do like them all. Each has its own flavor. Just haven't finished watching Enterprise, and then I did not want to pay CBS All Access for access to one show once per week. So when it gets released in November, that will be binge watching of Discovery.
Oh, you're going to go pick up the Blu-rays?
Add it to the collection, and I like the special features. I like the behind the scenes. I like the the character bios, all the other details you don't get just from watching an episode.
Well, I think it's going to look great on Blu-ray for sure. I think it's going to be a really nice transfer. So, are you spoiled at all, or do you have any idea what it's about, or are you going to have you been trying to avoid any contact?
I've heard talk here and there, so I know that Michael Burnham was supposed to be raised by Sarek, who is played by James Frain. I know that they're eventually encountering the Enterprise. I know that there's talk of encountering the Spock character. So I've heard snippets here and there.
Great,
and I do not mind spoilers.
Okay, well, the one thing I will tell you is that the Spock character stuff, that's all season 2, and that hasn't come out yet. So you will not see any of that in the season 1 Blu-ray. That I can guarantee.
Okay.
But you'll be in for an interesting ride for sure. It's a very different kind of Star Trek, I think. And, even people who like it will certainly agree on that.
Well, that's how people feel about Deep Space Nine. My father made the comment of, this is Star Trek. Why are we on a space station? So people love the Niners or they don't. People love this series or they don't.
Yep, it's part of the fandom. Mm-hmm. So are you a collector at all?
I am, yes.
What do you collect?
I collect mostly things that just interest me, not necessarily one specific genre. I love Vulcan type things. So I have the Journey of the Babel plate, and then I have other Vulcan type memorabilia that just crosses over. So I have a banner of James Frain that I picked up from the Star Trek convention because I like Sarek. I have an autograph of James Simpson, who played Sarek in the 5th movie. And then it's just whatever happens to catch my eye.
What's your most treasured item in your collection?
Honestly, only because it's the original and it's a piece of a collection, to where I'm trying to build up having the 4 Sareks. So I have an autograph of Mark Leonard. That I really do enjoy. So I have Jonathan Simpson. I do not have the gentleman that played Sarek in the 2009 movie. And then I'm going to work on getting a James Frain. So Sarek, in my opinion, is one of the most ultimate Vulcans. Most people would give the vote to T'Pau, but then he was the first ambassador to really cross over and really do other things within the Vulcan consulate.
I'm a complete fan of Mark Leonard, so anything to do with him, I'm down. I mean, the guy just had such dignity and grace, and you just feel it, when he was on screen. It really he had a real presence to him. And
then he was a crossover character, so that really gives a nod to his acting ability, because he played a Romulan, he played a Vulcan, and he was also a Klingon.
That's right.
He had a very good stage presence.
Yeah, although it's hard because it doesn't look anything like him under all that makeup. It could have been anybody under there, but that was him for sure. You ever put on a Star Trek uniform?
I have, actually, yes. Several.
Which ones?
Well, I'm the ambassador for 3 different Star Trek clubs here in Vegas, so I'm with the USS Las Vegas. So under Linda Ingram, we're doing fan films, so I play a Bajoran security guard. I'm also a member of Quark Space Station. So on our YouTube site, if you look under Quark Space Station, I am Quark. Then I am Vulcan Professor Alira. I play a first officer, and I play Catherine Hunter, my original name. I am Aurora Catena as a Bajoran. And then, because I'm also with the Klingons of Las Vegas, which is the IKV Kalis Row, yet again, I'm the ambassador. I'm not a member of the Klingon crew, but we have teamed up with Federation of Beers, which is handcrafted Star Trek beers. At the convention, I was the Tribble being chased by Klingons and posing for pictures.
Ah, nice.
And then we were just doing a Bugs Bunny Elmer Fudd nod. I was just walking around looking stupid cute, while I have a Klingon 10 paces behind me with a bafflet or a phaser, going, be very, very quiet. I'm going to get the Tribble. I'm going to catch the Tribble. I'm going to kill this Tribble. And then people are pointing and laughing, and we're stopping for pictures and passing out business cards. So it's great fun. And then that was also part of the premiere of the Star Trek 50th anniversary, Trouble with Tribbles Pale Ale.
Oh, very good. Very good. So are they here in town, Federation of Beer?
No, Federation of Beers is based out of Canada. And then they have an alliance with Schmaltz Brewery, or whatever brewery that happened to brew the beer. And so lead distribution is based out in Canada. Each convention, they premiere something different. So the first premiere was Vulcan Ale and Klingon Warnog. And then something new comes out each year.
So obviously, since you live in Vegas, I'm sure you go to the convention, as you mentioned. How many times have you been, roughly?
Maybe about 12 years at this point.
12 times? Wow, that's great. Why do you go back?
Where else can you see that type of thing? And it stands out even for Vegas. And then there are certain events to where there are friends you love, people you adore seeing, but then they're hard to find because they're from elsewhere. You meet people from elsewhere, but they will come back to a con. And then if anyone has ever seen William Shatner's fan video, to where it's about the experience, literally. It's about seeing the costumes. It's about seeing the uniqueness. It's about talking to people. It is a very, very peaceful and calm environment. Everyone's friendly because it's Star Trek. And you will find other forms of bad behavior in, say, a sporting event, other forms of bad behavior in, say, a rock event. Everyone is very cordial. Everyone is very accepting. Everyone is very nice to the children that are there. It's the introduction of the next generation. And I run the Cadet Corps with USS Las Vegas.
And what is that?
So there are several parents with children that they're introducing to Star Trek. So what I do is I plan events for the kids to go to.
Oh, what age groups?
Any age. Similar. I usually prefer just a touch older, around 6 or 7, only because it's harder to involve a very young child. Mm-hmm. But then we have gone to places such as Sequest Aquarium, Cowabunga Bay, Avenger Station, just nice little meetups to where kids can do family-friendly type of activities where the parents can enjoy themselves too.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. My kid is 10 and he knows I like Star Trek, but he kind of views it as like that's dad's thing right now. So besides, I think some of it is a little, I don't know. He's more in the robots and explosions phase right now. So, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. Maybe Whopper Jr. will come around. Maybe he won't. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe you can give me some tips if you're so good at turning kids on to Star Trek. What is your favorite Star Trek uniform that you have? You mentioned you had several.
The one that's just the most fun is just being a Tribble surrounded by a gang of Klingons, because everyone does a double take, everyone laughs. When we teamed up with Federation of Beers, I even had a sign, because I handmade a bunch of Tribbles. I even had a sign that was posted saying, make a purchase, throw a Tribble at a Klingon. So that one, I think, just turns the most heads. It just puts people in a good mood. It's just so silly to look at. But then a true Star Trek fan will understand the joke.
When you go to the convention, do you stay at the hotel or do you commute? I do not commute. Okay, it's a very different experience when you're there all day. I can tell you that. I've stayed at the hotel a couple times, and it's a very different sort of experience. But better be at the convention than not at all, right? Precisely. Yeah, absolutely. What episode of Star Trek would you recommend to someone who's never seen Star Trek before? A friend calls you and says, I've never seen Star Trek. I'm about to get on a plane. I can download one episode before I get on a plane. What should I watch? What would you tell him? Or her? Depends on the age range. Someone very young, if I was introducing a child, I would definitely do Trouble with Tribbles. It'll keep their attention. And then that will be the lead into something else. Okay. A friend of yours, someone the same age as you. I would actually go with The Cage, because it leads into the building of the crew and the building of how you lead into Mr. Spock being who he is, how the Enterprise is what it is. But to be perfectly honest with you, a very good lead-in, and I know people would disagree with me, is I would watch a 2009 movie if I did not pick a specific Star Trek episode that was under the canon of Gene Roddenberry. I say this because... Let's talk about that in a minute, but I first want to talk about The Cage. Now, do you mean The Cage or The Menagerie? Excuse me, The Menagerie. So you would show them the actual TOS two-parter? Yes. Right? Okay. Why would you pick that? You talked about how it introduces the Spock character. Is that the main thing? That, and because you have a lot of history of who Jeffrey Hunter is as Captain Pike, and then you have the building up of the transition. You have the old crew that was supposed to be under Captain Hunter leading into how you have the new crew led by Captain Kirk and Spock. And the problem with Star Trek is you really didn't have an introduction. With the Man Trap, it was just a standard adventure. Right, it gets right into it, yeah. And then you had Charlie X, and then everything leading forward. So I think as far as the first season goes, I think that's the only episode I can really think of that leads with an introduction. And then I wouldn't jump to any other series, because you would need to have a good feel for Star Trek to understand what comes afterwards. So I think your best introduction as an older person might be that. Okay, so then you said the 2009 film, and it's because it's like relatively self-contained and it has an introduction. Yes, I think it's a very good introductory movie, and then just because someone who's not into Star Trek, you need the flashes and the bangs of the explosion to keep them interested, because you can't bring someone into something completely new without that transition, and most people like the explosions and the lens flare and et cetera, et cetera. And the lens flare. But it shows the core characters of, Kirk is the cowboy diplomat, Spock is a logician, Uhura is a linguist, and you have the crotchety but caring doctor of Dr. McCoy, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a very good introduction to who the characters are, and then you actually build the crew of the Enterprise. What do you think Star Trek is? What is Star Trek? A very good outlet, and it's a very good lead-in for infant diversity and for combination. Say more about that. infinite diversity, infinite combinations, right? IDIC is a big deal in the Star Trek fandom. Why is that something meaningful for you?
I think it's just something that resonates with people these days. We're far more tolerant than we ever have been, but we're still working on it. And I think that Star Trek is encompassing enough to where that message is just resonated, but it's so broad to where everybody can find their own niche. I want to be a Klingon. I want to be a Tribble. I want to be an Orion. I want to be a Starfleet captain. Within this broad expanse, you'll find a place, someone else with some form of common interest, somewhere to have a meeting of the minds, and some way to build a new friendship, meet new people, and do new things.
So I put the question to you about recommending an episode to someone who'd never seen Star Trek before. But as you think of all the Star Trek that you've seen, what episode is most meaningful to you personally? That doesn't mean the best episode, but what episode of Star Trek is nearest and dearest to your heart?
My personal favorite, and I think that many would disagree with me, but just my personal favorite is Journey to Babel.
It's your choice, right? It's your favorite. So tell me why Journey to Babel.
It's the very first introduction up to Spock's mother, who is played by Jane White. This is Lady Amanda Grayson. And then it was just the oddities that come with being that half Vulcan, half human character. Young people nowadays really resonated with, at that time, Harry Potter, because every child at some point feels like that outsider. Spock is that perfect outsider character, that torn between two worlds. And I think that when you're young, especially working with young people, that, people feel a lot of angst. It's finding your place, growing up, and what you do with that situation. But there's that coming together of no matter what, there's that loyalty to family. At the end, Spock did save his father. At the end, there was that meeting of the father and the son to where they teamed up to tease the mother. And then there was this unification between that family.
That's a beautiful choice. Any others?
I do like Trouble with Tribbles only because it's just a lot of fun. There's many episodes in Star Trek to where there's always an underlying message, and then I remember the cast saying in an interview to where that's where they just basically had fun. To where you're taking a lot of serious topics, but that's where they just kind of enjoyed themselves. I really do enjoy Next Gen and all the other incarnations of Star Trek, but my heart's with TOS.
Wonderful. Do you have any social media presence you want to share with people if they want to tweet at you or anything like that?
None for myself. But then I highly recommend, if you're interested in joining a meetup group to where you're meeting a lot of Star Trek fans, there is the USS Las Vegas. If you're interested in attending Klingon Feast at Valley of Fire or meeting other Klingons, then there on Facebook is also the IKV Kalis Row, led by Kent Scal. Then there's also, if you're interested in becoming part of a meetup group to where we're doing fan films, to look up Bob Brandy's for Quark's Space Station. And then one local small business that I do highly recommend is Federation of Beers.
All right. Catherine, thank you so much for being on Trek Profiles.
Thank you very much, too.
Incoming transmission.
All right, and we're live with Roger. Roger, are you a Star Trek fan?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been a Star Trek fan?
Well, since about 1968.
Oh, September thereabouts?
Somewhere in there, yeah. It was, I got introduced to that when I was in the military.
Okay, and what were you doing in the military?
Well, I was a Navy Seabee in Vietnam, and the only movies that we actually got to see was Star Trek and Mission Impossible, and both of them had Leonard Nimoy in it.
That's right. And so you've been a fan ever since?
I've been a fan ever since.
Have you seen all 700 and something hours of Star Trek as we sit here?
Yes, I have.
Including Discovery and animated series?
Discovery I haven't seen yet.
Oh, okay. Why are you waiting on that one?
Because you got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
All the Star Trek stuff except for the movies, you didn't have to pay for. Now you got to pay for it.
So are you going to buy the discs when they come out in November?
I will see them somehow.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that I am. I'm not going to say that I'm not. So I don't know.
Fair enough.
I'm listening to people that have, and they say it's a good series. So I guess I'm just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen.
Are you a collector at all?
Oh yes, I'm quite a good collector.
What do you collect?
Anything, or actually anything that's original.
Original series or original items?
Items.
So give me an example.
Well, I 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago,
I bought some actual LCARs that were on the set of Voyager. And, like, to me, them are the holy grail of collectibles. And I'm waiting to get them backlit so I can put them in my house and, have them showing.
Is that probably your most prized item in your collection, or is it something else?
That probably is. I've got a few things that are comparable, but that's probably the best thing I've actually had.
What would be under that?
Well, I got quite a few items from Robert Picardo, because I'm a Voyager series fan.
Okay.
And they actually belong to him. They were in his collectibles over the years. So I have some of his stuff, and I've met a lot of the stars, the actors, and they all seemed like, very nice, very intelligent people. And I was very impressed by most of them.
Do you go to conventions at all?
Yes, I do.
The one here in Vegas, or do you go elsewhere?
Well, it's usually the one in Vegas. That was one of the reasons why I moved out here.
Really?
Yeah, well, the experience was still running.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed that. But, having the convention out here every year, that was one of the reasons that I moved out here.
Oh, it's amazing. I don't think I've ever heard anything quite like that before. Why do you like the convention so much that you would move here for it? Tell me what it does for you.
Well, actually, I had a friend of mine, him and I retired from the military.
Mm-hmm.
And he moved out here, and he's been trying to get me out here for many, many years. And both of our wives passed away, and there really wasn't anything to keep me back. I'm originally from Michigan.
Okay.
And I've been coming out here since like 91, so to see him. And finally I just decided, why do all this hassle when you can just move out here? So I did.
And so you've gone to the convention every year since?
Yeah, I was going to the convention when I was flying out here. But then, when I moved out here, I've been to the convention every year.
What do you like best about the convention?
Well, the camaraderie, I noticed there is some political stuff starting to get filter into it this year. And I'm not so much, I don't like that very much, but because when you're there, you're actually you don't need the political stuff when you're in that kind of a setting. But, you get to see the different fans from all over the world, and you get to talk to them, and you get to, see different articles that are for sale, and the actors and stuff like that. That's a big draw for me.
Yeah, do you dress up at all?
No.
No costumes, uniforms, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, I guess I'm not that, I don't want to get into it in that respect.
That's all right.
As the cosplays and all that kind of stuff, it's nice. I love to see the costumes. Some of them are just fabulous, just great. There's a lot of people out there that have imaginations that are really fantastic. So I do love to see them, but I'm just not one of them kind of people.
That's all right. If I called you up and I said, hey, Roger, I'm getting on a plane here in a few minutes, and I've got time to download one episode of Star Trek, and I've not ever seen it before, what episode should I watch?
Well, actually, myself being a Voyager fan, I liked the very first, and I can't remember the name of it.
The very first episode?
The very first
Caretaker.
Caretaker, that's right. You're right. Caretaker. I liked that one probably. That was one of the better ones, I thought.
And it's a two-parter, I think, or it's an extended episode, so you're sneaking a double header in there on me. But that's okay.
Correct.
I won't hold it against you.
Correct.
All right, very good. Now, what episodes of Star Trek hold the most meaning for you? Now that doesn't mean the best episodes, but episodes that you personally find meaningful or powerful.
Well, actually, when I first started watching, TOS, I never realized there was always an understatement within the within the series itself. Mm-hmm. You can watch it, and it's very entertaining, but there was always a meaning behind. And I believe, Mr. Roddenberry.
Careful with rubbing your hand on the table. It's going to pick that up on the mic. You can put your hand on the table, yeah, but if you slide your hand, it's going to pick it up. It's okay.
But there was always a meaning for what the series meant. And I thought that was, I'm not a progressive, but I've noticed, through the years, there's meanings in different episodes. You have to pick it out, you have to find it, but it's there. And that was kind of a little thing that I always enjoyed.
Okay, could you give me an example of one?
Well, like the biracial stuff, or the racial stuff that was in
Let That Be Your Last
TOA,
Battlefield?
Or TOS.
Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's just quite a few. I mean, I look back on it and think that, there is a meaning for the purpose of when Mr. Roddenberry was directing, producing, and doing whatever he was doing, writing those stories. And you have to watch them a few times, but you pick it up. You pick up the meanings behind them. Like you give it. I mean, the cast from TOA or TOS. I'm sorry. They were all different kinds of species. They were all different kinds of, different colors of people, different origins of people. And I thought that was quite revolutionary for that period of time. And they all worked together. They all meshed as a team.
Right.
And being a military person, I believe in teamwork, and that just kind of grew on me. I thought that was good.
Nice. When you choose to sit down and watch Star Trek, how do you decide what episode to put on?
Well, right now, I've been going through the Voyager series, trying to find, like right now, my Elcars that were actually on set. And I've noticed, they don't emphasize that kind of stuff when they're filming.
Right.
So it's becoming harder. I've talked to several of the individuals that were on Star Trek or actually made the Elcars, the Okudas. And I'm trying, I asked them several questions about the Elcars, and believe it or not, which it was hard for me to believe, most of them guys have forgotten a lot of stuff.
Oh, sure. I mean, they were probably, how many of those Elcars things they were probably making in a week?
Oh, yeah. And I asked the Okudas, are these real? Because I actually bought them from one of the actors. And they looked at them and they said, there is no way to really say that these are real because we made so many of them and replaced so many of them. And we never really actually put anything on them, except for if you look within the Elcars themselves, you will see people's names that was either on the cast or on the crew.
Right.
Or in production.
Right, involved with it in some way.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was, but it kind of surprised me after, like some of the actors having to be on that set for so long. I would have thought stuff like that would be ingrained in them.
Right.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
They actually, could not remember. Like I was looking for the engineering area that was on the bridge. They couldn't tell me. They don't know if it was on the right side. They don't know if it was on the left side. it was a job to them.
Sure.
It wasn't a passion. So,
for some of them it was. I mean, if you ever talked to Doug Drexler, I mean, that guy was all in on Star Trek.
Yes, he was. I've talked to him. I've talked to the Okudas, and none of them can give me a definitive answer.
Yeah, no. I think that's part of being a human too. I mean, I at work, I'm a pack rat, and I looked at a report that I wrote 4 years ago, and I opened it up, and I was like, I know I wrote it, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I have no recollection whatsoever, right? So I could imagine, if you're doing stuff like that, cranking out, 50 of those transparencies, in a few weeks, I mean, they're not going to remember.
Exactly.
But it's still a great piece of Star Trek lore that you have, and I'm sure that it's something that you're going to appreciate and enjoy.
Well, I'm just totally in love with those things because I think that's Star Trek history.
Mm-hmm.
They were used on set LCARs from Voyager.
What is Star Trek to you?
It's the search in space for the different species, if there is any, cultures. I just can't believe myself. I just cannot believe that we're alone. With the billions and billions of galaxies that are out there, I can't believe that we're alone. And I think that's the journey to find other people. I love this. Well, I don't like what happened when they dropped NASA and we stopped doing our space thing. I thought that was just ridiculous. But I've talked to engineers from NASA from Florida, and they're telling me, it's good, like SpaceX and these other private companies, that they are glad that the commercial areas
mm-hmm.
have taken up the slack so they can put more money and more research into these manned projects that they've got ahead of us. But I thought we'd be a lot further than what we are now.
So Star Trek is about exploration
yes.
of space.
Correct.
And the universe. Okay, great. Are you on any social media that you want to tell people about if they want to tweet at you or anything like that?
I'm not on social media.
Okay, wonderful. Well then, Roger, thank you for being on Trek Profiles.
Well, I appreciate it.
Incoming transmission.
All right, Chris.
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm always good.
Good.
So, Chris, are you a Star Trek fan?
Well, I am the utmost Star Trek fan.
How long have you been a Star Trek fan?
I came into it later on in life.
Okay.
I didn't explore it until I was later on in my 20s and my 30s. More into my 30s and 40s, mostly because of the series of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I feel that Deep Space Nine and its episodes, mainly from season 4 on, when it talks the political and the more religious, actually comes about and still resonates today in 2018 as it was 25 years ago.
So you're a Deep Space Niner then?
I'm a Deep Space Niner fan. I'm also a Star Trek Enterprise fan.
Okay, and have you seen all the Star Trek?
I have seen 700 plus hours, minus the animated series, but I did see Yesteryear, which, of course, me seeing that only episode, I can be biased and say that's my favorite one.
You're allowed, man. It's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
So you've seen Discovery and everything?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And what's your favorite besides Deep Space Nine?
It would be Enterprise.
Okay.
And then Discovery in the end.
Okay.
Enterprise because it was the first prequel. Mm-hmm. It was the first idea to say what happened before Kirk. What happened before that, the 100 years before that. I would say it's a lot more tactile than the later series that we're used to because of the hands-on of the ship. The ship is more of a submarine of the day.
Right.
As opposed to the Enterprise D, as opposed to everything else.
Which looks like an 80s Marriott.
Exactly.
An 80s airport Marriott, no less.
Exactly, nonetheless, yeah. Or the JFK of the 80s, if you want to say, or even a Newark airport. But yes, I believe Enterprise was my favorite series. It's more or less the before the rules and regulations, right? I would say, what would you do if, you're out there on your own, you're making decisions. Nothing has been set in stone yet, although the Vulcans were overseeing what the UFP was doing. Yeah, what Starfleet was doing. But it was more or less no rules, no regulations. We're out there on our morals. And that's about it. And that's pretty much why I like this series.
Chris, are you a collector?
I am, as a matter of fact.
And what do you collect?
I have Christmas ornaments. I have...
The Hallmark?
The Hallmark ornaments. My mom started me on that when she started noticing I was watching Star Trek. I think I have almost everyone except for the original Enterprise, which came out in 90. I've been in search for that for years. But I've been in search for it only because I want to pay my price. I don't want to pay what it normally is. I mean, I think now it's like $250, which is the last I've seen.
Have you looked around the shop here? You may have it.
I have looked around the shop. There are a few things I've seen in there, and I'm like, I don't think I have that one. To be honest, I didn't put my list on my phone because I didn't think I would see what I see now.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff.
He's got a lot of stuff.
This place is huge.
This place is so huge. It's absolutely a collector's dream come true for a lot of the stuff they have, especially the Trek exclusive room that they have in there.
Yeah, a lot of action figures.
A lot of them. And
do you collect those?
To be honest, I don't. But I always wanted the Enterprise Diamond Select series. Mm-hmm. And I see that they have the Malcolm Reed one here. But in order for, I'm a completist, so I have to have everything. And the only thing I wouldn't be able to find is the Trip Tucker one. You can see every other one. You look on eBay, you look on Amazon, and you want to get the Trip Tucker one? All right, $700. Well, I don't have $700, but it would be nice to have it if I could take a snapshot and put that in
Why
place.
is the Trip Tucker one so hard to find?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know.
There must be some fan reason. If anybody knows, they should tweet at us. Yeah. Tweet me at TrekProfiles and let me know.
Yeah, that's one of the things I would like. Would be something like that, because I think the most common one they have out there on Amazon and on eBay is the Jonathan Archer Bridge one, the captain's chair one. And then they have the T'Pol, and they have the Reed and the Montgomery too. But the Trip one, to be honest, the station there is the hardest one to find out there. Again, if you could find it, tweet it, John.
Yeah, we'll make sure we'll pass that along to Chris. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So you collect the Hallmark ornaments. You've been looking for some of the figures. What else?
Yes, I started an Eagle Moss collection. I have all the Enterprises except for the newest one I believe they're trying to come out with, which is the one from Star Trek Online, the Enterprise F. So I have all that set up on the top of my bookshelf from the Phoenix up until the Enterprise E.
Oh, so you've got your very own little museum of space flight there.
I do. I have everything, and I ran out of room. When I realized I got the E, I was like, I ran out of room, so I got to put the Phoenix in the back. And
every collector's dilemma. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, if I don't put it up, it'll be in a box somewhere, and I won't remember what box it's in. So
you live here in Vegas.
I do.
And so you go to the convention every year.
I do. I've been to 7 non-consecutive. I missed the 50th anniversary.
Oh, no.
Yes. Oh, no. Oh, yes. Depends on who you talk to. But yeah, I missed the 50th. But I've been to everyone.
And why do you go?
I go for the fandom. I go for the fans. Everybody goes to see, I want to see Garrett Wong, or I want to see Kate Mulgrew, or I want to see Patrick Stewart. I go because the first year is all right. You go to see them, that's fine. But as I went on, I realized that the fans are the true celebrities. The fans are the one that you sit and talk to. The fans are the ones that you spend most of the 5 days with, that you see in and out, that share the same common interest as you do. And you get to talk to them. It's like your own little Trek Profiles interview, really. Mm-hmm. You sit and talk to them, and what's what? What do you like about it? And you have discussions. And you can have discussions, and you can, it's the fandom. It's what it is. And who'd have thunk it 53 years later?
Yeah, we're still here.
We're still here. There he was, Gene Roddenberry, a cop on the side of the road with a donut in his cop car, goes and writes a script, and says, all right, we've got a Russian, an Asian, African-American female, a human white male, and an alien. We're all going to come together to solve the galaxy's problems. And, of course, he goes in, no, we don't like it. And he goes in, no, we don't like it. And who'd have thunk it? Somebody picked it up. Lucille Ball picks it up and says, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's one of those things where everybody comes together. And I think every convention embraces that idic, embraces Gene Roddenberry's vision for that.
So what episodes of Star Trek are most meaningful to you?
Any of those that are moral. Any of those that have morals.
So give me an example.
Dear Doctor.
Okay, tell me why.
Because that episode is the one where, for those who don't know,
it's an Enterprise episode.
It's an Enterprise episode, and it becomes a doctor and someone on the outside who has their own little views on it comes to clash. What's good on my side versus what's right on the other side.
That's the one where they go to the planet and the species is dying out.
Yes.
Right? Because there's some other species that's going to overtake them on the same planet. Right?
Yes.
Okay,
it's the weaker of the two. It's the weaker of the two, and they're trying to help out. And they find something, and it comes about, and they have this little conversation. And any moral episode of any of the 700 hours of Star Trek puts you in that mind frame of, if you were there as a referee, or what would you do?
No, it's a great episode.
It's a great episode.
No, it's a fantastic episode. I mean, the moral conundrum in it was seriously profound, although the one part of it that I found particularly cringy was when Archer is looking at the people around him, and if I remember right, he says something like, someday they're going to come out with a directive, a prime instruction on how we should deal with all of this. Like a directive that'll be prime and it'll tell us what to do. And I think, oh my gosh, please,
Yeah. And
other than that, it was a fantastic episode.
Great fan service to the prime directive.
Oh, of course.
But I mean, you come across, you can save it or you can leave it as it is or not interfere.
Right. They chose non-interference, if I remember right.
They did.
Yeah,
they chose the non-interference, much to Phlox's dismay, because Phlox operates under the doctoral oath, which is, I will help however I help.
Yeah.
And why not?
He's the doctor. He wants to heal.
He wants to heal. And here is Archer on the other end, sits there and says, well, if we do, and again, the prime directive issue becomes one of those things.
Good. Give me another episode.
In the Pale Moonlight.
Okay. Well, this one is certainly a difficult episode to deal with morally and ethically.
It is. It is because, do you do the good? Is it good for you to do it? Is it good for the Federation to do it? What is the ultimate goal? You need to get to where you have to be, but what line are you going to cross?
Well, this is the same Cisco who got wrapped around the axle about Eddington, right? You betrayed your uniform, right? Well, he's pretty much betraying the whole Federation here.
He is betraying the whole Federation.
In an effort to save it.
In an effort to save it. And that's where the moral conundrum is. Do you step over that line? Of course, the log never happened, right? Computer delete the log, because for all they know, it never happened. But it was something of a psychiatrist stepping into a psychiatrist's office to see what he wanted to do, and he explained the whole thing. I looked at that episode as really one of the most moral decisions that one would have to make, because it's wartime. What do you do for the war? What are you going to do to put your footstep into it and not have your footstep into it, just so you can save the Federation?
Save
the Federation. The needs of the many, I think, is is what is the overall theme of the episode. It's needs in the many versus needs in the few.
Gotcha.
If you think of it that way.
All right. So, how do you feel about the JJ films?
I love the JJ films. I love the take on it. Definitely the fan service. It's something new.
Oh, for sure.
It's something new. It's a what if trilogy. Okay, what if this happens? You know, and what if Kirk's father had died and never seen him become the captain? I love his take on it. Of course, everybody, I kind of agree with some people, the lens flare issues.
Oh, yeah, lots of lens flare.
Lots of lens flare. I'd hate to be the internal maintenance people on board the interior of the Enterprise to keep it so white.
Looks like an Apple Store.
It does. It almost looks like the Apple Store or the inside of a baby's first tooth when, it comes in and it's all pure white. It's one of those things.
I've not heard that comparison before.
But it's true. I mean, if you think about it, I think the uniforms are great. I love the intro or to bring Spock back. I love that. I love that part of it.
I really love the JJ films too. I love 2009. I thought it was just fantastic.
And I think the intro into Prime Spock, really, all it is I can't tell you what to do. You have to make that decision on your own because of the intent of the timeline, however it may be. But I think when you say that to somebody, when he says that to Spock, that opens up a whole new box of worms, which gives us In the Darkness and gives us Beyond as well. So,
and how are you taking Discovery?
I'll tell you the truth.
Sure.
I was excited for it, and then when I found out it was another prequel, before even watching the first episode, I was against it.
Okay.
Because I thought to myself, Enterprise to me was the prequel. That's it. We don't need to see what happens before then. Matter of fact, why don't we take another take on it and put it to the future? Why don't we see what happens past Voyager? Which, of course, as we all found out, spoiler alert for those that haven't, Picard series coming.
Oh yeah, that's pretty well spoiled. I wouldn't worry about that because we're past that point.
Thank you. But we didn't. I thought in my mind was we didn't need another prequel, and the show came out. The uniforms were different, but still the ideal of the show remained. I warmed up to it. I'm not gonna lie. I warmed up to it. I enjoyed it. I am looking for season 2 because I'm looking for the character of Captain Pike and how he integrates into the Discovery. But again, I warmed up to it. I liked it just like everybody else would. So, if I had to pick a favorite character, I can't. Because there are so many, and there's so many facets to each one of them that you can't pick a favorite character in that series alone. But the ship was brand new. It was something, that was another thing that was on the drawing board for Discovery. Did I like the initial drawing of the ship? No, because to me it felt like a Klingon warbird and a Federation ship came together with the triangle from the saucer to the
Discovery
missiles.
itself.
Yes, the Discovery itself. I loved every minute of it. My favorite episodes, though, and to be honest, I really can't say favorite because Discovery is part of the new storytelling era.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a different way that TV is made in 2018.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a Game of Thrones feel. So it tells a story for 15 episodes. So really, can you pick a favorite episode? Not really, but if I had to pick, it would be the mirror episodes, which I thought were absolutely well done.
Well, that's like half the season.
It's 7, 8, 9. It's so many. But there's so many facets to it because it's something brand new. Because let's face it, 50-something years ago, what we knew of the mirror episodes was James T. Kirk in low lighting. no one ever knew it, right? It was always low lighting in the Deep Space Nine episodes. So where did it come from? And then they bring it to its point as to why it's low lighting, because when they have Lorca inject the probe into his eyeballs to keep it from the sun because it's so used to low lighting. I thought that was a great tie-in, and great fan service to the Mirror episodes as well.
Oh, right. Okay. What do you think Star Trek is, Chris?
Wow, that's a question. Well, I think Star Trek is, that's a question I really don't know if I can answer other than my opinion. I think
let me ask you a different question.
Sure.
Why does it matter to you?
Because it's something that we strive to look forward to. We all want that. We all want humanity to be one. We all want to get along with each other. Now, of course, again, like I was stating 53 years ago, you had this mix of multiple races or multiple ethnicities together. No one would have thunk in the time that it was made that this would actually work. 53 years later, we're still here. We still have the United Nations. We still have, and not to get political because I'm not really that political, but we all strive for that unity. We all strive to be one. And I think that's what encompasses every Star Trek fan. Be it 6 feet tall or be it even minuscule, we still have that hope. And we may not see it in our lifetime. We may see it 100-something years from now. But there's no reason why we can still hope for a better future for us.
Chris, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, you can reach out to me. I'm on Twitter at TrekFanLV. The T, the F, L, and V are capital. You can also reach me on Facebook. That's about all I have. I'm not that far into social media.
That's all right.
But you can reach me out that way. I'll be happy to talk Trek with you. I'll talk anything you wish.
All right. Chris, thanks for being on Trek Profiles.
Thanks, John. Thank you very much.
Incoming transmission.
So, what's your name?
Taylor.
How old are you, Taylor?
9.
9. All right. And are you a Star Trek fan?
Yeah.
And what do you like best about Star Trek?
I like it mostly because there are mostly different creatures, because like they're good and mostly bad creatures, and it's mostly like magic. So, yeah.
Cool. And what's your favorite captain on Star Trek?
I'd say I'm not really sure. I think they're really all good and mostly the same.
Oh, really? Okay. What's the first Star Trek you think you ever saw?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I've seen like a couple episodes, but mostly they were all the same.
All right, fantastic. And what's your favorite alien you ever saw in Star Trek?
Tribble.
Oh, that's your favorite? You like Tribbles? And did you see the original series Tribbles, like in the original 60 show?
All 3.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So have you seen all of Star Trek, or are you still working your way through it?
I really don't watch a lot of it. The only time I'm doing Star Trek is like at a meeting or an event, mostly, or when I watch mostly Star Trek with my dad.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you and your dad watch together? Who picks the episodes?
Well, we just really watch them randomly.
Oh, you just sort of pick and off you go? All right. Are you watching them on DVDs? Or are you streaming it or something like that?
We're just watching...
Netflix?
No. Since my dad literally doesn't have, like, a thing, so it just plays random shows.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Yeah. What's the thing that scared you the most in Star Trek? Scariest moment?
I'd say none, because mostly it's just people wearing makeup and acting, so I'm not really scared of most of it.
Okay, that's fair enough. And what's the happiest part of Star Trek for you?
I mostly say a lot of it, because literally anything can make me happy sometimes, so yeah.
All right, cool. And is there anything you want to tell our listeners about why they should like Star Trek?
because Star Trek can make people feel strange, happy, and a whole bunch of things. And there are weird aliens, and they're aliens that eat other aliens, like glomers eat tribbles, which is sad. That's why, like, when I'm at the convention, I never buy them. I only buy the tribbles.
Oh, yeah, we don't like the glamours. Mm-mm. No. So you've been to the Star Trek convention?
I've been to 2.
The one here in Las Vegas? And what did you like about that experience?
I'd say wandering around and me seeing a whole bunch of people in costume. And this year was my first time actually going in costume. Last year I did not.
And what was your costume this year?
It was a scientist or a nurse. I'm not really sure because it was blue.
Oh, okay. Well, it could be whatever you want it to be, right? That's the wonderful thing about it. So you've got a Star Trek shirt on today, it looks like. And that's it's a red shirt. Looks like the
Kill shirt?
Yeah, the poor red shirt. Looks like he's getting it. That didn't work out well. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to tell me about why you like Star Trek?
No.
All right. Well, then, Taylor, thank you for being on my show.
You're welcome.
Transfer complete.
Here ends this special dispatch of the Trek Profiles podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing from many different kinds of Star Trek fans this way, and I have even more coming in part 2, which will be coming out soon. Thanks for listening, and live long and prosper.